On today's episode of the show, we're going to look at the three primary types of cuts that I teach my running backs to use at Laurier. We're going to look at some film from the OUA last year, as well as some film from some NCAA guys that just got drafted in last week's NFL draft. So the first main point is every situation's different, and every running back's different, and different players are going to use different types of cuts and styles to get the most out of each situation they're in. What we want to do at Laurier is get our guys in a position where they feel comfortable using their skills and they're building habits that carry them through the situations that we're commonly going to see. So I really focus on teaching three different cuts. The first two we're going to look at because they're very similar, but often I find guys either get tackled or miss a potential hole that they could hit because they're using the wrong one. So we're going to talk about first pressure steps and speed cuts. The first step or type of move that I teach my guys is a speed cut. We work on this all the time. And we're going to see two nice ones from running back Kevin Wong right there. The defining feature of a speed cut is that you are going faster coming out of it than you went in. Now that might mean you're getting to top speed. It might just mean you're accelerating, you're gaining momentum. Okay, but whenever we can, we want to use a speed cut. If we're in a situation where we can use a speed cut in the backfield, particularly while we're working our way through a blocking scheme, we want to use a speed cut. The reason for that is it helps us build momentum, and things can be very unpredictable through the line of scrimmage. I spent a lot of time talking with my guys about how they get through the first 3-4 yards from the line of scrimmage. After that, it's about them choosing how they use their tools. But if you look at the really, really good runners at any level, they're always gaining momentum. It doesn't mean they're rushing to the line of scrimmage or getting to full speed behind the line of scrimmage, but when they get a chance to accelerate, when accelerating will help them, they're able to accelerate. And we see the first one right there off Kevin's right leg and the second one off his left leg. Both those cuts, he makes the first cut off this kind of 4-eye technique, or that linebacker that ends up unblocked. A lot of guys, when they see that, will use a jump cut, that unblocked linebacker. The defining feature for me on when to use a speed cut in the backfield versus a jump cut, which we'll get to in a bit, is if you have room or space between the defender or maybe even the offensive lineman who you're running into his heels. If you have space between that offensive lineman or that unblocked player or blocked defensive player and yourself, and you can use a speed cut without getting tripped up, we want to use the speed cut. Okay, so here, if we had used the jump cut, right, we de-accelerate, and now 38 might be able to make that play off the other side. Here, Kevin uses two speed cuts, gets some pretty good blocks on the edge, and is able to get into open space. That brings into the second kind of cut we use, very similar, called a pressure step. Now in a speed cut, it's very clean. We're going to put our foot outside the framework of our body and use that to accelerate in a different direction. A pressure step, that's when we're selling that move. We want to make the defender think that we're going the opposite direction that we're going. So you'll see him here. If I can get the slow-mo. You'll see that leg there. Bang. He puts that right leg in the ground and he gets a little lean with his head and his shoulders. That freezes number one. And then we're accelerating out and we clear our hips off the speed cut or off the pressure step. So I lean into that pressure step and I accelerate out of it and I clear my feet from that tackler, and we're able to add 10, 12 good yards to that run. This is an awesome teaching clip because it goes to show two great uses of the speed cut, okay, and then a great job with the pressure step. Ball security, it's a great hit. All right. Now we go to USC. Here again, we're looking at the pressure step. So he gets into space. Now, I would say if I'm in this situation, I wouldn't mind if he speed cut off his right leg and got vertical. We see a defender whose shoulders aren't square to the line of scrimmage. That's an opportunity. We have two options. We can either speed cut and accelerate at his back leg, or we can try and pressure step and beat him back outside. Here he chooses to go with the pressure step, and he's able to beat him back to the perimeter. Again, you see the lean in, that's so important. Okay, we watch him lean on that left leg and accelerate out again. He clears his hips. Okay, and then secondarily he uses a jump cut here. Now this brings me to a point, and my main thing, like I said before, I want to keep our guys playing fast. I want to teach them to have habits that put them in good positions to protect themselves and the football through the line of scrimmage. Once you get in a space, there are so many different things that can happen that you have to consider. I don't spend a ton of time coaching that because that is a lot about feel and understanding the scheme and where you are in space. Here, whenever we have a situation where we see multiple tacklers, I never like using a juke move that takes away momentum. He does a great job. This is a great jump cut. We'll talk about jump cuts in a sec. Okay, he's able to avoid this defender. Awesome. That guy's on the ground. We're running. If there's nothing else in this picture, what a move. The issue for me is we lose all our momentum as a ball carrier making this move, and that next tackler is less than a yard away. So now we have no momentum, and we're a sitting duck there for that next tackler. They can go at the ball. They can take a shot. We can't protect ourselves. So I love the pressure step. Is a great move. Bang, accelerate away. Great job using the inside hand. But I wouldn't have necessarily gone with that jump cut secondarily. That's a good point to bring up there. Okay, and keeping with our theme, again, we see behind the line of scrimmage, any chance we get to use a speed cut, we want to. This is an inside zone. Okay, he reads that things are plugged up. His main read, this D tackle, the end is jumped inside. He uses a speed cut to get outside of it, and then another speed cut right there to burst and get vertical. Okay, I'll play it for you full speed. Bang. One common mistake guys will make is behind the line of scrimmage, they might pressure step this. Now, the downside of that is pressure step takes a little more time and doesn't build momentum. When we're in the danger zone here between a yard behind the line of scrimmage and 2-3 yards in front of the line of scrimmage, I always want to be building momentum. Again, I don't want to rush. I don't want to get to full speed right away. I don't even need to be at full speed at the line of scrimmage. I need to see the situation in front of me and try and build momentum when I can. Here, this guy is clearly blocked outside. We don't need to set that block up. We don't need to waste time with the pressure step. What we need to do to help this O-lineman is accelerate and clear this space, which he does a great job here. Now he doesn't need to maintain that block because we're through the space. So two great speed cuts, 1, 2, and now we get our pressure step. Make that guy miss in space. Add +4, +5 to the run. Again, in this one, I think he could have sold it even a little bit more. He does a pretty good job selling it with his shoulders. I would have liked to see him sell it a little more off his left leg instead of trying to cut off his right leg here and cross over. But he does do a nice job of taking away that quad, that tackling surface from number 4. And then we get vertical, accelerate, add value to the run. Okay, now maybe I was going back and forth through this whole process, making this video, who my favorite running back was, getting ready for the draft. And I think I might have finished with Edwards Helaire as the most fun guy to watch. Now, this first move is impressive, but it's not the one I want you to focus on. Catch the ball in the flat. And this is what I mean. You wind up in these situations where, you know, this is a sideline drill. We're reading accelerate through or cut back. He sees him overplayed. You know, he's got to make kind of an unorthodox move to cut back. But what I want you to watch is this is a perfect example of a pressure step. Okay, the cavalry's coming, closing in. We don't want to let this guy square us up. We lean in over that outside leg, and we accelerate out in the opposite direction. If we see it from the tight here, just let that play through. Okay, again, it's a great move to even stay in bounds there, but this is what I love. He reads here that he's got 2 defenders. He can't lose too much speed, so he does not want to try and make a jump cut. Look at him lean and load that outside leg. He sells it with his shoulders and bursts off that leg, low and powerful. Now here he can't use a stiff arm because the ball's in the right hand. So he's going to use it what we call a shoulder roll to rip up and through that tackle. And he adds like 8 yards to the end of this run. Great job loading the leg, accelerating out, and then using that shoulder roll to add 4, 5, 6 yards to the run. So we've taken a really good look at when we use a pressure step and when we use a speed cut. There's a place in the game for using the jump cut, and it's a powerful tool. You just got to use it the right way. I teach our guys to use the jump cut when there's no room for their feet to make another kind of cut. So as long as we can make that jump cut and still protect ourselves on the other side, because it does take a lot of time and often it takes our cleats out of the ground, we want to make sure we can protect ourselves on the other side. If not, we're going to accelerate and take what we can get. But when we can use a jump cut, the key is to be lateral, because any forward movement you have in the jump cut should be a negative if you're using it properly. So I'm using that jump cut when either an O-lineman or an O-lineman's feet or a penetrating defensive lineman or a linebacker has prevented me from using a speed cut, which usually happens on an angle. When I don't have that angle and I need to move 90 degrees, I'll use a jump cut. Maybe the best of them all with the jump cut here, Saquon Barkley. Now, I'm sure they weren't trying to leave this guy unblocked. But again, we see here, he's too close. If he did this with a pressure step, the angle that he would work on would ultimately lead him to colliding with 43. So he's able to jump cut and get lateral. Okay, and ultimately he's able to take this thing to the house. Now, there's some factors at play here when you got a talent like Saquon. That's not, something most of us can do. But this highlights the situation where we would want to use that jump cut instead of a pressure step. He's too close. If I take that angled pressure step or speed cut, I'm going to be tackled. I need to get my feet out of there right away. Okay, and that's when I use the jump cut. Taking a look at this last one here. Okay, this one just really highlights when you don't have an option, right? When you're in a situation, there are multiple tacklers in a limited space. You want to protect yourself, protect the football, and accelerate. The way you do that is by lowering your pad level, getting the football to the middle of your body, and using your offhand to protect yourself and your ball side shoulder to rip up and through, so that you're doing everything you can to break arm tackles. We'll see here, this is Jonathan Taylor. Uses a nice speed cut, and we see 32 is able to reach that arm out. See how Taylor gets the ball to the middle of his body. From a ball security standpoint, we want a wrist above our elbow. We want that elbow in nice and tight, and we want the ball right underneath our chin pulled tight to our body. We see 32 reach that arm out, and you see how Taylor is going to use that ball side shoulder and almost punch that arm with that ball side shoulder. When that happens, that drives the tackler's center of gravity up. We see here how that arm comes up. Okay, we see him get his heels out of the ground. When we feel that, we want to accelerate our feet and drop our pad level, which we see Taylor do here. And we're able, even though we got 2 or 3 guys on us, to carry this thing out 3 or 4 more yards. So when you can't make one of those cuts, right? We see the speed cut here. He's got nowhere to go. There's no going left or right that's going to help us. We want to protect ourselves, protect the football, and create momentum.